Welcome to Hack the Entrepreneur, the show which reveals the fears, habits, and inner battles behind big-name entrepreneurs and those on their way to joining them. Now here is your host, John Naster.
Hey, this is Hack the Entrepreneur. Thanks so much for coming back. I appreciate it. It's good to have you. We got a really fascinating guest for you and an interesting conversation, so let's get into it. I am your host, John Naster, but you can call me Johnny. My guest today has gone from a sales position in the concrete industry to running a successful e-commerce business from his home office. Back in 2009, while working in the construction industry, my guest decided to start a website called concretehelper.com. His plan was simple. It was to help the industry, and in turn, this would help his career. But instead, he realized he really just kind of hated his job. So fast forward to today, and my guest is running a successful Amazon FBA company and has published an extremely useful journal and goal tracking book called the Sweet Ass Journal. As a cool bonus, he wants to give 2 copies of the journal away to listeners. So you're going to hear some stuff about the journal now during the conversation, but if you would like a copy, one of the 2 copies, email me, john@hacktheentrepreneur.com, Jon, hacktheentrepreneur.com. First 2 listeners who email me will receive a free copy straight to their door. All right, let's do it. Now, let's hack Heath Armstrong. So 3 or 4 months ago, entrepreneur.com reached out to me and asked me to write an article for them about the essential tools for entrepreneurs in 2017. And I did. Everything I use to run my businesses day to day are on that list. One of those things is Typeform. I've been using Typeform for almost, I'm going to say 2 years at this point, for collecting feedback from listeners like you, for taking surveys after every course or webinar I've ever run. I've set up surveys after to get feedback and also to get testimonials to help sell future products. Typeform is versatile. You can use it at every stage of your sales funnel. To research, for lead generation, to sell stuff with Stripe integration, tutorials, quizzes. I've even seen it used as a sales page, which is pretty damn cool. The results don't lie. Typeform has a 57% completion rate on surveys, which goes against the industry standard of about 20%. That's more data for you and your business to play with. Integrates with your favorite tools, including Google Sheets, MailChimp, Airtable, and hundreds more. You can also collect data through Facebook Messenger with their Typeform chat feature. Yeah, that Facebook bot madness, you can use it with Typeform. Remember, what you ask matters. How you ask is everything. Sign up for free today. Go to typeform.com/hack, plus a special offer for you as a Hack the Entrepreneur listener. You can upgrade to Pro if you like what the free trial gives you. You can upgrade to Pro and you'll get 30% off for the first 6 months. Here's how to do it. Go to typeform.com/hack. Plus, they have absolutely stellar support staff and their help center will get you up and running fast. Remember, when collecting data, you have to remember this one rule. Put people first and then data second. And then you'll get all the data you possibly need. Go to typeform.com/hack. We are back with another episode of Hack the Entrepreneur. And today we have a very, very special guest. Heath, welcome to the show.
Johnny, I'm so pumped to be here, man. Thanks for having me. I'm actually fist pumping as we speak. My thing.
Very cool, man. Absolutely my pleasure. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Right.
So should we just jump into it?
Yeah.
All right. Heath, as an entrepreneur, can you tell me what is the one thing that you do that you feel has been the biggest contributor to your successes so far?
So there's a lot of things that fall into that category, like morning routine, meditation, writing daily. But if you look at what they all classify as, they all fall under a personal habit. And for me, when I realized that there was a big difference between creating business habits that make you a bunch of money and get, rich really quick, and creating personal habits that actually allow you to create this system in place that you can work towards those business goals and successes, that was a big turning point for me. And so I'm really big into habit tracking, and not just creating habits, but tracking them like an absolute maniac, setting a vision that aligns with my dreams, then creating a habit that allows me to execute baby steps each day towards those measurable milestones that build up to that dream. And this comes with a fundamental of like having a vision board or a list of affirmations. And then what I do is I take 3 visions over a 100-day period, because I want to have a certain set of time, and then I want to be able to track myself through that period of time. So I'll pick 3 visions from maybe my vision board or my list of affirmations. And then I create about 3 to 5 habits that I want to work towards creating over that 100-day period. And I know a lot of people say you only need 21 days to create a habit or whatever. I need more. I need it to be more in depth. And so this 100-day period allows me to try to hit that kind of, if I can do 70 or 80% of those days for each of those habits over that 100-day period, I feel really confident that I can stick that the rest of my life, and then contribute those habits back towards business strengths, or even carving more into personal strengths or relationships. So that's essentially what I do. And when I take those 3 to 5 habits, I have this giant chart, man. And it's like, it might seem obsessive to some people, but like I have to have it for discipline. And I put the 3 to 5 habits across the top of the chart. And these could be things like, when I first started, it was very simple stuff, like write for 10 minutes a day, make $100 extra on the side so that I can get away from my debt and get away from my career job eventually. And those types of things led to things like write for 1 hour per day, or release 2 blog posts a day, or, record 2 podcasts a day, or to the extent of sell $50,000 a month in revenue on Amazon. So like it just keeps building and building as I implement these habits over 100-day periods of time. And so I have those habits in place that help me develop a personal foundation, because that is what is the most important thing to me, is like, how strong can I be mentally? How strong can I be when I get to the point where I'm facing resistance gremlins in the trenches and adversity and things fall out of whack? Like, how can I keep myself composed to stay together? And then I take 2 freedom actions per day that are also in alignment with those visions, and I work towards those. So those would be things like tasks, which I don't use the word tasks often, because I have like a negative yeah. So I use the word action instead. And so how I started that was before I had the tracker and before I had the Sweet S journal where I was actually tracking freedom actions and visions in that, I literally just got a note card out. And this was when I had no idea who I was, who I wanted to become. I knew I wasn't happy. I was drinking a lot, and I just got out a note card and I wrote down an affirmation of like who I wanted to be in the present tense. And I wrote a date on that note card for 100 days out. And then every single day I wake up and write that same affirmation in the same date every day. And then I would write 2 things I was going to do per day to work towards that. And when you eliminate the mass of like every crazy thing that's on your to-do list, and you can really focus on like, is what I'm about to do in complete alignment with one of these 3 visions over the next 100 days, which when I started, it was just one vision. And you can say yes to that, then do them, and do the ones that are hardest first throughout the day. And if you could just do 2 things per day to work towards that, it's incredible how much those baby steps build up to like a giant summit, in the end. And it's something that keeps me on fire and just like fueling. So that's basically what I do in a nutshell.
I love it. So I love this idea because, well, I like the actions, not tasks, but I like this idea of the 2 things, starting with the hardest one. That's absolutely essential. Those are the ones we want to always be avoiding. But it's wanting to do, and so you have this 100-day sort of vision, right? And it seems daunting to people. Like, I think that we feel oftentimes that it's like, if I just set that vision today, that I have to work for like 12 hours a day for the next to get it. Otherwise, I'll never get there. Rather than actually, if you just broke that down and did 2 things, no matter how small those things are, every single day in 100 days, you'll get there. It's just, we want to, you know what I mean? We get so excited. We want to just jump right into it. And then we get burnt out. And within 5 or 6 days, we just don't follow through.
And it's magical when it happens too, John, because like the first time one of those visions comes to reality based off these small things that you were doing every single day, it kind of turns this switch on that you can accomplish anything. And some people are in the point where they haven't had that experience yet, and some have, and now they have the fire to keep moving forward. But like if you keep doing it, you're going to get to the point where you have that experience, and you just don't give up. Don't let yourself fall into the trap of binge watching Breaking Bad episodes and slaying fried chicken in your undies on your couch because it's too hard to do those two things. Like, get out there.
But what happens when you miss a day?
It's okay, because you know the 80-20 principle.
Like mentally,
right?
how do you deal with that without that like dragging you down?
Well, 100 days is a lot. So essentially, when I do 100 days, I look at my average of completing over that 100-day period. I'm usually around 70 to 85%. So I do 100 days because you can track it by 1%. And so if you're on day 40 and you've done all 40 days, then you're 40% to your goal. But if you're on day 40 and you've only done 20 days, you're only 20% to your goal, and you only have 60 days left. So you can see where you're at. And I'm a firm believer that if you can do 70% or higher on these 100-day periods, that you're going to have enough of that in place. So it's another one of those things, like you can look at missing a day as a curse, or you can look at it as an opportunity. And I wear a bracelet actually because I'm very hard on myself when I miss days. The most days I've ever done in a row was 40 days. And that was the most productive, amazing 40 days ever. And I had some really hard habits on there because I had a problem with drinking and other things. And I did 40 days, cold turkey, no drinking. I did a lot of health stuff that I'd never done before. And it was really hard for me. But it was being able to look at like, okay, I failed myself today, but I'm going to come back tomorrow. We all crash. We all have those times where it gets really hard and we feel like we're not accomplishing anything, even though we have. I do it probably more than other people, but I literally wear a bracelet, and it's my can't change it bracelet. I'm okay. Well, that happened. I can't change it. I'm going to, wake up the next day and do it better. I'm going to look at it as an opportunity and not a curse. And because that's what you have to do. You have to get your mind in the right space, or you're always going to be, kind of sitting around crying, pooping your pants, sucking your thumb, and hoping for the world to hand you things. And so I always embrace my current situation to fuel the fire to make changes in my life going forward. And if you're hurting, use that emotion to light yourself up. Emotions are healthy. They're great. They allow us to heal. How you decide to interpret your situation will help you find happiness. And it's in the decision. Like, you've got the gift. Let it be close to your heart. Let it rip you open. You'll learn from it. It'll influence your self-image and how you see the world around you, and how others will start seeing the world around you. And when others start seeing the world around you as kind of energetic and they see you doing great things, like, they're going to start doing it too. So you have that chain reaction that's going on. And it's just from that one little day of missing something, if you can remember all that, like, it's incredible moving forward.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the one thing, having those personal habits. And this is coming now from a place where, you've been in business for yourself for years. You are getting to travel the world. You get your location independence that you wanted, but it started somewhere. So I would like to go back, if we could, Heath, kind of to that point, right? There seems to be, looking back, this time in every entrepreneur's life when they've realized that they either have this calling to make this change in the world, or they just cannot simply work for somebody else anymore. So could you tell us which side of the fence you see yourself on? And then can you take us back to when that happened?
Yeah. So for me, it's a little bit of both. And I didn't understand that it was more about the calling to do something greater in the world as early as I found out that it was more about that I couldn't work for myself. And it was a weird situation. I graduated in the end of 2008, which is when the economy collapsed. I had an awesome job lined up in San Diego that I was pumped about. They pulled it away because they had to end up laying a bunch of people off. This was in the concrete industry, and this is what I majored in, was concrete and construction. I had absolutely no interest in the major. It was a high job placement, and it had the shiny salary that came with it that was higher than most other majors. So I didn't major in the things that I was actually passionate about, which was, web design or information systems or things like that. I got on a plane to go to a job interview down in Houston, and this guy gets on the plane, and this is 2009 or the end of 2008. And he sits next to me in the middle, like that dreaded middle seat. He's like, can I get in here? And he's like covered in tattoos, and he's got piercings and a huge weird beard, and he's got a bald head. And he's just like, I was from the Southeast, and like we were raised to judge people. Like I can admit that now, like I'm a completely different person. The first thing I was doing was like, oh my God, this guy has to sit next to me, like, and I just had a folder because I was going to an interview for like an oil rigger concrete repair job or something. And he sat down and he started talking to me and I'm like, oh God, I don't want to have to talk to this guy. And he's like, where are you going? And I told him, and I was like, I'm going for a job interview. And he just asked me one simple question. And it was like, do you love it? And I sat there for a minute and I was like, well, no, not really. And he's like, well, then why are you doing it? And I just kind of froze. It was the first time that I ever had somebody say that, because everybody had always been pushing me to like go towards the money or go towards the big house or the shiny objects. And he was the first one. And I'm looking at him like, well, who are look at you. Like, who are you to tell me this? And then he starts telling me a story and it was blowing my mind. He was being, he had just gotten sent back to the US from, I think, Kenya, from like NATO, because he had been abducted by a rebel tribe out there and held hostage. He was working with a nonprofit that he had created to help women of the genocide make jewelry, and then taking the jewelry back to the United States and using the money to build up their little villages. And I'm like, this guy's got to be full of it. And like, he pulls out his phone and starts showing me pictures. And he's like, this is a black mamba that the Rastafarian chopped its head off of. And here's a lizard here. And I'm like, what is going on? And eventually I'm like, this guy is like, he's gotten into me somehow. Like I didn't understand it at the time, but he planted a seed. And when I went back to Kentucky, back to Tennessee at the time, I bought a couple necklaces from him before he got off the plane. And he asked me for his address, but he didn't tell me why. And about like 6 months later, when I was really kind of depressed and just had no idea, like I hated the job that I'd taken in the industry, I completely forgot about our meeting with him. This book comes in the mail, and it's called No More Mondays, and it's by Dan Miller. And Dan Miller is a big author. He's a really big author in the United States. He does a huge podcast as well. And inside of it is a note from Jared, and Jared is Dan's son. And, Dan is this like big Christian figure, very clean cut. And Jared, he's this guy who's been in Africa doing all these crazy things. And it's just a message that's like, do what makes you happy. And at that moment, I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is insane. Like I forgot about this. I had brought the necklaces back. I think my mom had one, maybe an ex-girlfriend had one or something. And I started reading that book, and it changed my entire perspective. There was all these stories about people that were doing things to create a lifestyle where there was no more Monday. And then I got into other books like the 4-Hour Work Week and things like that. But it helped me change my perspective from that I had to work in this industry to maybe I can do something to better myself, even though I'm in this industry. And so then I started going back to the things that made me happy, like making websites and seeing how I could kind of put the two together to make myself stand out over the rest of the people that were in the industry. And so that's when I made this website called concretehelper.com. And I was literally just doing it to boost my resume. I wanted to stand out to where when I wanted to go to the next job, because I was working in a factory where we were making precast concrete. Like I measured out like catch basins and sewage tanks and things like that. I mean, it's the most boring thing you could possibly do. And I was like, I really want to get, one of these sales jobs where I can work from home or something like that. And so I built this website, and it was amazing because like I just put time into it every single day. And the idea of it was to create all these different calculators that help people kind of calculate all these weird things that were in the industry that most people listening aren't going to understand anything about. But there's all these different calculators, like how to do a concrete mix design or how to design like catch basins and things like that. And how can I put these on the internet for people to use them for free? Because what I saw was there was like one company who was selling a program for a lot of money that did some of those things, but there was nothing anywhere where people can get them for free. And so I just started like, working in spreadsheets and converting it to HTML stuff and putting it on this website. And then I started recirculating industry news as well. And it got big. Like I started getting quite a bit. I mean, for me back then, to get 30, 40,000 page views per month was a lot for me.
It's huge.
And then it started going up. Yeah. And like I started getting emails from all over the place. It got published. An article got published about the site in Concrete Construction Magazine. The editor-in-chief, or a guy who ran a bunch of different magazines in the industry, contacted me and wanted to fly me out there and interview me to take over like the editing position and the website overview for this company and this magazine, which blew my mind. And it was something I was interested in, but it was in Baltimore. And like, I had to get to that mindset of like, okay, do I take this job and go and sink myself deeper into this industry that I have no passion for? Or do I stay here and make myself, and I hate to say, like, make myself suffer and whine even more until I figure out how I can start working for myself with my skill sets? And so I did that, man. I stayed. I didn't take the job, but I still had people. I always knew that like this would be on my resume and I could get a better job. But what I did was I quit. I actually quit my job with just off the basis that I made one website and had a lot of views. I had no idea how to monetize it. And about, 7 months later, I was broke. I was about to not be able to pay rent on my house. I was in a bad position. I tried to start a company with a partner who I didn't know that well. And he ended up like withdrawing all the money out of the business account for cocaine, actually. I thought it was a hack. Like I thought somebody had gotten our cards, like, sir, whoever it was had the pin. I found out he had to go to rehab. I haven't talked to him much since. So I had to shut that company down. I had to go back and get another job. And that job that I got was a much better job because I had that resume builder from that website. And it was an outside sales job and it was the job that I kept for the next 5 years while I tried to figure out other ways to make money on the side, to be able to leave my job and really have this location independent, travel the world type of lifestyle. And I'm very grateful for it. But none of it would have happened if I didn't just do something that small in the industry that I was in the moment. So it's kind of eerie to think about. And the seed that Jared planted in my head, to this day, I still keep in contact with him, because when I got really bad into alcoholism in the next job, like just to the point where I was crawling across the floor to a bathtub, like pretty much 4 or 5 times a week just to try to get my headache to go away, because I would just go on these ridiculous blackout rampages. And I kept getting these images back from Jared in that book. So I went back and revisited it. And that was the time when I actually discovered podcasting app on my phone for the first time. It was February 13th, 2014. And I listened to an episode with a girl called Amber Ludwig, and I had the courage to send her a message and just say, look, your story about WordPress and having a depressing past and all that, it really resonates with me. I just wanted to say thank you. It helped me get over this hump. And she just immediately responded and was like, I want to do a 30-minute call with you. And we talked for 30 minutes. Like the next day, she introduced me to Hal Elrod and the Miracle Morning, and she introduced me to Paul Kemp, the App Guy, who runs the App Guy podcast. Paul ended up becoming a mentor to teach me how to podcast, and Hal taught me the Miracle Morning, which basically changed my life. And so all of it flows together in a way that's just unbelievable, like to think about as far as a story set goes, or the path from where I was to where I am now.
I love it. But I like the way you created it for like Concrete Helper to kind of create that resume. And even though it took you out of the industry, because it gave you that confidence at the moment, maybe, I guess, false confidence at the time because it all fell apart, but that doesn't matter because it makes sense as a journey now. At the time, it probably sucked. And then it got you a better job in sales for 5 years. Well, you could sort out sort of mentally and physically how to and what to do for your own business.
Absolutely. And it was funny with that site because in the industry, there were other people my age that I had gone to school with that probably wanted my job because I worked for a really good company and they worked for more bigger corporations. And so they would mock me because I had this website and because I had these nerdy or dorky things on my resume. And that's the type of industry it is. And then when I left and they're all trying to get that job, it's just funny to look back and think like, I hope that there's an awakening for everybody at some point to understand that there's something bigger that you can do and something more in depth. But at that point, yeah, I had no idea that website would lead to all the things that it's led to. And I think you can trace that kind of thing back to just your passion as a kid. The first time you played a video game or Counter-Strike, or the first time you picked up drumsticks, John, you know what I mean? Like everything falls into place like a jigsaw.
Totally, yeah. And it doesn't make sense at the time always, but it does.
No,
but it's
rarely.
You got to keep pushing and trying different things and seeing, because that's where you're going to find sort of those sparks where you can, there it is, and you just go for it.
Yeah.
Which then, leads you to now, right? So you had this quest for years, location independence and running your own business. You've started a couple different businesses. Now you had a podcast that went for years that you're now going on and starting another one. But what is it right now that you're doing as like your main business?
I do online arbitrage, which essentially is the act of buying and reselling products on the internet. And I'm obsessed with automation and freedom lifestyle. So I'm very adamant about my employees being able to work from home on their own hours. If they get the job done, I don't bother them because I want the same for myself. I want to be able to travel and do my thing and not have people that are constantly like asking me for things, and it's very important for the health of relationships and family and just the way that people interact in the world. And so I built this company based on that idea. In the beginning, it was a physical thing. Like I was actually going to stores, trying to find stuff to buy on the shelves, scanning them to see if they were selling for more on Amazon, taking them home, packing them in boxes, labeling them and shipping them off to Amazon and waiting for sales. And like very quickly, I found out that that's just another one of those jobs that I don't want to have. And then you don't have the insurance of a company. You're not getting your pension plans or anything like that you would get from a career job. And so I quit and I went back into trying to start this business that I was working on called Podcast Pal, which was just kind of like an online marketplace for exchanging podcasting services, which was not working at all. And eventually the guy that I'd met that kind of got me into the retail arbitrage or the online selling, he sent me a message like 6 months later, is August 2014, was like, "Hey man, I figured out how to do it online. You want to give it another shot?" And I was just like desperate. Like I hated the RA part, but like if it's online, then I can automate it and I could see the vision of having it all automated and bringing people on and working for me. And so I did it. And like I went full force into it. And this is starting with zero money and $20,000 debt. And the first thing I sold was Lego blankets, like 5 of them. And by the time I went from August to May 2016, the next year, I had left my job and I had sold my house and I'd paid off my debt. And I was moving across the country. So it took me about 8 months. And that's an insanely fast pace for something like that to happen.
But can we just quickly, so it's not retail arbitrage, right? It's online arbitrage. So arbitrage, if you don't know, I mean, as like an economic term, is like, it's like taking advantage of price differences between 2 or more markets.
Right.
So can you, like, the scale and the way you grew is amazing, but when you say it's fully automated, like it's not automated necessarily by like artificial intelligence and apps necessarily. You have people working doing it.
Yeah, it's both.
It's automated for you, the owner.
Correct.
But there's manual labor as well.
Yeah. So there's a team in the Philippines and the US that essentially are scanning. We have programs that help. There's one called Tactical Arbitrage. There's one called OA X-Ray. And you can take these programs and scan full websites. And what they do is they're built to take those websites information whenever you scan and match it to Amazon, find that same product and give you a report on what the resale potential is, what the ROI is. There's a lot of bugs. I mean, there's a lot of things that you have to do manually to figure out what the exact numbers are, but it's an incredible shortcut. So they do that and they put together these reports. And then those product lists every day, Monday through Friday, they come back to me and my buyers in the US. And what they do is they go through the reports and they do a second comparison of the numbers based on what the sourcers found. And if it's a good buy, if it's something that we're not restricted from selling, if we can get it at a good price and make 50% ROI is what I try to aim for, we'll buy a certain amount. And usually it's only like 20 to 30 of an item. Occasionally I'll contact a manufacturer and get like pallets if it's something really good and I see a lot of opportunity. But usually it's about, we're buying maybe 20 different items per day of quantities between 10 and 30 each. And so then we send those products to warehouses. So we're buying them from US marketplaces online on their websites. We ship them to warehouses in Montana and New Hampshire because they're both sales tax-free states. And for 75 cents an item, these companies will receive these products. They will package them. You're talking about shrink, if they need to be shrink wrapped or they need to be put in bags, poly bags. They label them. Glass has to be bubble wrapped, things like that. And then we submit the shipments that we've created to send to Amazon based on the products we bought. They pack all the shipments together with the products they've labeled, and then they send them off to Amazon warehouses. And then they sit in these Amazon warehouses, which is called Amazon FBA, otherwise known as Amazon Prime. So if you buy something Amazon Prime and you get the 2-day shipping, it's because Amazon is shipping it directly from their warehouse. And so they sit there, and then our job at that point is to try to maintain our prices on the listings so that we're competitive to sell these products. And they usually sell very quickly because we do use automated tools. Like I use a tool called App Eagle, and what it does is every time somebody drops a price on a listing that I'm on, it'll match them. If somebody goes up on their price, it'll match them and go back up. So like I'm always in competition for the buy box, and that's what you have to do if you want to make the sales. And then they pay us out every 2 weeks based on what the sales are. We use that to pay down the inventory that we bought and buy new inventory, and the system just keeps cycling. So it's a pretty incredible thing to look at the potential of expanding it into creating, products for ourselves and products that make people happy in the future.
Wow. So is that the goal then? So I love this and it's fascinating. And I know people are listening right now and being like, what? Like the wheels are turning, because people are like, this is amazing. But is that sort of the extension, or like is there, I guess to take it back fully, is there like a 100-day sort of vision of where you want to keep going with this?
Yeah, right now my 100-day vision has about 5 habits on it. One of them is to kind of self-educate myself more on private label and manufacturing my own products. And so I'm taking a course and I'm pairing it with the knowledge that I already have of the marketplace, because I've got the journal that I put out, which is basically the system that I learned from, adopting habits from all the other entrepreneurs that I interviewed from my podcast. And I've got that out, and it helps. I mean, people send me testimonies from all over the world about how much it's helping them create this personal foundation that is making them happier and more successful. But I want to expand that. As that started happening, I realized, and then going to Africa and doing all this nonprofit work, like there's much bigger work to be done, right? And I could go into the direction of starting like a sports and outdoor gear wholesale flip side or something like that. But like, that's not doing anything to benefit people from my perspective. And so I want to make products that contribute to making people happy. And so the brand I have is called Rage Create. There's going to be a lot of things falling under it, but one of the first things that I'm doing is creating some pretty upfront affirmation decks, which on the front, there's an affirmation. On the back, there's a stick of motivation for people that can pair with the journal. And this is for just like maniac entrepreneurs myself. It's X-rated. There's a lot of bad language in it, but it's straight to the point. It's thorough. That's the first test to get the manufacturer set up, to get the products in line, and to actually start sending through an e-commerce portal on a standalone site, plus Amazon and other places. But then I want to take those and move them into other areas. Like I want to connect with somebody who is an expert in postpartum pregnancy depression and say, how can we redo this journal and redo these cards to help these women that are having this depression? And then I want to connect with somebody who's in the, drug rehab facility and say, how do we redo this journal system, redo these cards, and have them help this, mass amount of people in these clinics at the same time, and then try to spread that way. Because when you look at selling a product individually by yourself, or like contacting other industry experts and trying to get them to more people, that's what I want to do. Like I want to be able to help as many people as possible in the little amount of time that I can. And so that's what I'm working towards ultimately. And then there's other products that are in line behind those types of cards as well, that my number one rule is just, it has to contribute to making people happy. And so that's what I want to do.
Right. So back in 2009, when you first started Concrete Helper, that was literally because you didn't like your job anymore. And now, and so you were on that side of the fence, but now it's sort of evolved into, you really do want to make a difference.
Right. And we just spent 3 weeks in Uganda, and we were in the slums of Jinja. Jinja is the second biggest city, but we actually went over there with an organization called Help International, who had started a school a couple of years back. And we're in this, we're staying in this refugee village of a very slummy area in general anyways. And so the refugee village is like the worst of the worst. It's all of the people that live there that the locals kind of look down upon because they came from Sudan or tribes from the north, and they were kind of like, in exile down or refugees from another area. And I mean, it's just like 5x5 huts of mud. The kids wander everywhere. A lot of them don't have clothes. They don't have food. They don't know who their parents are. The mothers never give up the father's identities. So you have a lot of cases where, these kids just have no idea who they belong to. So you'll have a 12-year-old taking care of 4 or 5 younger kids in a little 5x5 hut. And the school we were working with was doing, the idea is like, we give these kids free education. We give them a meal every single day. And that is a lot to them. This is a big thing. And so going out there blew my mind, because my job was to figure out how to implement this computer lab into this school. So not only, there's just no schools that really have computer labs out there. There's a couple of them, but they're not advanced. Like the fact that this refugee village and this school is going to have, and already does have, about 12 to 15 like legitimate computers set up as we're speaking, they're going to be the ones that have this nice computer lab. Like that makes me so happy. And so I've been communicating back and forth with the IT director, and I'm going to be going back out there and doing things like that. And so it does change. Like Concrete 2009, I was selfish. I thought the world owed us everything. I looked at shiny objects and I looked at the goals in the end instead of looking at the habits and the discipline that you have to have in place to create those goals in the end. And I was hopeless. I was going down a path that I just had no idea would work or not, but I kept trying. That's the thing. I kept trying. And now to end up somewhere like Uganda in this situation where I have a business that's making money and allows me to support myself while I'm doing something like that, that's a huge thing for me. And it's not a vision that's too big. If you would have asked me then if that was possible, I would have laughed and said it was never possible. So for anybody out there who thinks that visions are too big, you're dead wrong. It just takes baby steps every single day. And it's incredible what can manifest if you believe in it.
I love it, man. Absolutely love it. This has been a fun conversation. With that, and with the goals and the baby steps, we've got to talk about it sort of in passing. It's this sweet ass journal, which I think will help people do this exact thing, is it not?
Yeah, the Sweet Ass Journal is something that's turned out to be much more powerful than I ever imagined. I had, when I did my interviews, I came up with about 6 different things that I was doing every day. I had like 6 different journals that I was like, all these people, these people are meditating and these people are doing 2 things per day. And this guy's generating ideas every day. And like, I was trying to do all that at once. And then one day I went down to my basement and my dog had peed all over my journals, all of them. And the same day, oddly enough, my old coach, which is Jacqueline Duplessis, she's incredible. She was like, you should really put something into a system. Like this system that you're using, it seems to be working. You should really put it into a system that other people can use. So I was like, I'll take it as a sign from the universe. I'll put them together and make this into a journal. So I went a couple weeks by turning all my electronics off and I just wrote my system out into a series. And it was all something that I have to pay tribute to every single person that I talked to over my journey, because processes are learned from other people who are successful. I just use them to adapt to my life. And if you can implement them in your life and figure out how they work for you, take the ones that aren't working out and add new ones in, it can become a very powerful thing. And so, yeah, I put this journal together. It's essentially what I was talking about with setting your 100-day vision. The journal is broken down to 100 days. Every single day is trackable by 1%. It even tells you what percentage you're on at the bottom of the page. At the beginning, you set 3 visions that you want to accomplish over a 100-day period. It doesn't have to be 3 business decisions. It can be, most of the time I do 2 personal, 1 business. And I set those visions. And then throughout the journal, it's more about strengthening your mind and keeping it in focus on the things that actually matter in life. So it's a mosaic layout. It's very non-overwhelming. It's not worksheet type or anything like that. You can write as big or small as you want. You can draw pictures if you want. It doesn't matter. But you go through things like gratitude and things that make you happy in the beginning, just to set the pace for the day. And then you get into stuff like the idea muscle. So juicing up the habit and being able to get creative and problem solve on demand, because it's something that really helps. And that's an James Altucher method.
That is.
And then gifting. So like one of the biggest things that changed my life was the power and the bliss that you feel from just giving and servicing others. And so this is a big section for me. I read a book called 29 Gifts by Cammie Walker, and she goes through this whole process of how it helped her overcome this extreme chronic disease that she had. And I noticed a lot of the people that I had interviewed were also big givers, and they said it was the number one thing that made them happy. And so I had to include it, and I started doing it myself. And I came into some really powerful encounters with gift giving, which you can read about if you listen to the journal audio guide that we'll give you for free, or you read the guide.
So where do they get the guide? Where do they get it?
We put a landing page up at heatharmstrong.com/hack, and you can link to it in your show notes if you want. And the logo is at the top for Hack the Entrepreneur, so they should be able to see it and just download the guide for free. The journal has about 80 pages in the front of it that's a guide of how to use it. This is just the audio version of that. So you can listen to it and decide if it's something that you think could be helpful to you. And then also, it goes through things like freedom actions that we talked about earlier. You set 2 things each day towards one of those visions that you set at the beginning of the 100 days, and you just try to accomplish them. And more important stuff like wins, celebrating the reward in mind, abundance, counting your blessings. You can set tomorrow's freedom actions before you go to sleep to kind of set an intention and let you sleep easy. And then reflection and meditation. So all of those things, we get really in depth on how to use the sections, but every single one of them is a power habit that was adapted from all of these successful people that I interviewed. And when I implemented them into my life, it changed everything. And so now it's just kind of an easy system to do in the morning and in the evening. It takes about 5 to 10 minutes a day, and it's extremely magical. So you can get that, heatharmstrong.com/hack if they want the free guide.
Excellent.
If they want to look at the inside, they can just go to sweetassjournal.com or check it out it's on Amazon as well.
Very cool. So heatharmstrong.com/hack. I'll link to that in the show notes, as well as the Sweet Ass Journal. We're going to go all the way back to Concrete Helper so you can see what we were talking about. I'll track Heath down on social media for you and put it on there, as well as a bunch of books that were mentioned, like No More Mondays, Miracle Morning, and 29 Gifts, and some FBA sort of, I guess it's online arbitrage things we talked about. I'll also put that in there so you can kind of dive deeper if you would like.
Yeah, and for FBA, we're going to be putting out lots of resources for learning how to do that type of thing on FBAlibrary.com too. But right now the shell's kind of halfway.
Very cool. So if they follow you on social media, you'll let them know when that's out.
At Heath Fist Pumps.
There we go. Awesome. So that will all be on the show notes for you on Hack the Entrepreneur whenever you head over that direction. Heath, thanks so much for joining me, man. Thanks for sharing so openly. And yeah, man, just keep doing what you're doing because it's awesome to watch.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Johnny. Man, it's been a lot of fun. I just can't stress enough that every day is a bonus round. You just got to slow down and enjoy the beautiful stuff in life. And the way to do that is to flood out all the things that make us feel overwhelmed and all the fast paced stuff. And you do that with habits. You got to create habits. So I can't stress that enough. And thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. My pleasure. I'm so happy to get to bring you one of my absolutely favorite tools in general, one of my favorite tools online, but definitely my favorite tool for surveys, collecting data, and getting customer testimonials. Join with former President Barack Obama. He used this in making data collection a little more human. And you get to sign up for free today. Plus, I worked out a special deal for being a Hack the Entrepreneur listener. Right now, you get to upgrade to their Pro account. Try them out first for free. But then if you wish, you can upgrade to Pro and you'll get 30% off for the first 6 months. Here it is. Go to typeform.com/hack. They have great support and their help center will get you going fast. When collecting data, remember one rule. You have to put people first, data second. And ironically enough, you'll get all the data you possibly need. To get started today, go to typeform.com/hack. All right, well, that was a lot of fun. Remember, the first 2 people to email me, in this time it might already be gone, but John at hacktheentrepreneur.com. If you're one of the first 2 people, I will send you your very own copy of the Sweet Ass Journal. Otherwise, you can check it out in the show notes on the site or on Amazon. And so, as much as I enjoyed being part of that conversation, we've reached the point that I enjoy just a slight bit more. The part where I get to go back and find that one thing. You ready? Let's do it. Let's find the hack.
Being able to look at okay, I failed myself today, but I'm going to come back tomorrow. We all crash. We all have those times where it gets really hard and we feel like we're not accomplishing anything, even though we have. I do it probably more than other people. But I literally wear a bracelet and it's my can't change it bracelet. I'm okay. Well, that happened. I can't change it. I'm going to, wake up the next day and do it better. I'm going to look at it as an opportunity and not a curse.
And that's the hack. Heath. I love this. I love this. I love this because in the middle of it, you're like, I probably do this worse than most people. Which is what we all think. But it can't be true because we can't all do it worse than other people. It's just how we think about it. But this idea of wanting to change and doing incremental small things, doing things each day, doing a thing, one thing each day to better yourself, better your situation, better your business, better your health, better your happiness, whatever it is you want to focus on, it's doing the one thing each day. And when you fall off and you miss that day, just accept it, own it, and move on. Don't let it drag you down. So Heath has a bracelet, the can't change bracelet, which means he can't change what's happened in the past. He can change what's happening in the future or in the present, which is what we can do, right? It's this idea, this whole year of 2017, since day one, I've focused on my sort of theme for it is to get better. And I actually got it tattooed on my arm in July. But the idea is to get better again with happiness, with wealth, with fitness, with relationships, whatever it is you want to focus on. You can focus on more than one, but this idea of just pushing yourself to get better, to learn and to grow in the ways that you want to, and to know that you can. And that when you fall off and you miss that day, don't beat yourself up over it at all. Just, that's it. Like it's what happens, and that's totally fine. Move forward. Continually sort of push yourself forward to be doing this. And I mean, Heath's been working on this for quite some time now, and he says the most he's done, I think, was 41 days, he said, which is an enormous amount of days. And to some people, it might be like, well, I've done 192 days. So it doesn't detract from Heath. So what I'm saying is if you're pushing it forward right now, or you start now and you get to 4 days and that's your best, don't compare it to Heath's. It's not a race between you and Heath. It's just yours. That can now be your best amount of days, or best streak, I guess we could call it, of getting better. You're sort of getting better streak. Push yourself. If 4 is your max, try and double it. Go to 8. Make that your most longest streak. No matter if that's you want to do 3 push-ups every single day, do that. See how many days you can go. Don't beat yourself up when you miss the day. Just start over. Start the counter over again, which does kind of hurt, but use that to then make yourself strive to beat and be better this next time. Know that we all fall off. We all think that we're worse than others at this, but none of us are. It's just this acceptance and this understanding and this mindset that we can grow. We can make ourselves better. We can make ourselves smarter and faster and be healthier. All these things, if we focus on it and incrementally work towards it. Heath's book is an absolute amazing way to do it. I haven't actually personally been doing it yet, although we did buy 2 copies, but my wife has been completely, since the day she got it, she's been filling it in every single day, and she's really, really digging it. So fully endorse it through her to pick up the book. If you want, you can email me still, because maybe you're one of the first 2 people. Maybe sometimes I say 2 copies, but actually the first 5 or so get them. So, we'll see. Email me if you would like a copy. If I don't have any left, I will pass you on a link to Amazon, and you can grab a copy and start today to make yourself better each day. Heath, thank you so very, very much. All right, well, this takes us to getting better, and it's my theme for the year, and so it's also why I created the Define Your 20 course. It's a very small, I'm calling it like a mini course. It's 3 videos. It takes about an hour to go through, and it's a weekly process that then breaks down daily to defining what it is will push you forward, will make you happy, and will make you take your business and yourself to where you want to go with whatever it is you want to work on or create. It's defining your 20. It's that 20% that's going to give you the biggest leverage to accomplish the things you want to do. It's the system I've created over the last couple of years of how I schedule my weeks, my days, and then my months from there. So hacktheentrepreneur.com/DYT, define your 20. You can find it on the site there and check it out. It might be something you're really into. Like I said, it'll take you an evening to go through. Then there's also a book you get to download for your Kindle or your computer if you wish to really get a deeper understanding of it. But the videos are short, and it's really just meant to kind of give you the clarity to define that 20% that I'm always talking about and really be able to execute on the things that are of value to you. All right. HackTheEntrepreneur.com. Go there. If you don't have a copy also of the book yet, you can get a copy. I'm giving out free PDFs of it right now. It's like 2,500 people, I think, have downloaded the book now, and just over 10,000 people have bought it. So it's pretty awesome. I'm really, really happy that so many people are reading it, giving me great feedback on it, leaving awesome reviews on Amazon. It's just really cool of you guys and ladies. If you have time to do that, that would be awesome. Also, if you're on an iPhone, you could go to hacktheentrepreneur.com/iTunes and leave me a rating and review there, because these ratings and reviews, they're what drive our podcasts, our YouTube channels, whatever they are. This content we create is driven by these reviews, and it's super helpful. It takes a couple minutes. If you're on Google Play, you can go on there and do it. If you're on Stitcher or iHeartRadio, all these places you can leave ratings and reviews. Whatever player you're using right now has a review system in it. Take 30 seconds, figure out how it works, and leave me one. Thanks. I appreciate it. As always, it's been a blast. And please, until next time, keep hacking the entrepreneur.